Hey everyone, welcome back to the Tenant Side presented by Tactics Real Estate Advisors. As you know, if you've watched previous episodes of the show, I invite on business leaders, entrepreneurs, people from the local Philadelphia business community to talk about what their company is, why they've started it, and maybe how it's been affected or how they've had to adapt their business during the coronavirus pandemic. I'm really excited today. I'm joined by Johnathan Grzybowski. He is the Chief Marketing Officer and co-founder of Penji. After noticing an industry problem amongst customers communicating with their internal creative teams, he knew there was a better way to streamline the process to save businesses time and money and founded Penji to solve that problem. I'm personally a customer of Penji and we're very satisfied. That is not why he joined me on the show, but I felt like I should get that out there because I can personally attest to it. Johnathan, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So tell me a little bit about the story behind Penji and why you came up with the idea and sort of the problem that you were solving in the industry.
Yeah, we were a digital marketing agency that got by through creating really high-end websites and marketing and SEO and things of that nature. And then we realized that what we were doing wasn't necessarily the most fulfilling thing on the planet. And so we kind of pivoted to a new way of doing business. It's really easy to make websites, and for universities we had stuff like that, and other like larger medium to small businesses, but you're talking to the end client, right? So you're fixated, all of your time is fixated on that one individual. And so you're only helping the people that you touch or the people that you talk to on a daily basis. But what if we were to kind of switch that and help more people by creating a software or a service or something of that nature, where it can't just help one person, it could help thousands, it could help millions. And so that was kind of like the philosophy and how Penji's, like the ethos of Penji started, was that ideology of like, we need to help more people. We're really smart individuals. We have the necessary talents and resources to build something super great. So how can we go ahead and do that? And looking back in 4 years, that was just the driving force to what it is: the technology arms, the mindset, the stubbornness of like staying singularly focused. We only do graphic design, so we don't do anything else out of the crazy. So that specific thing is like really important.
So I think as an entrepreneur myself, one of the things that we always had difficulty with was sort of finding a graphic designer who would give a company of our size the attention that we thought we needed to create the project that we needed, but also to go through the process of sort of vetting the people that we use to build these projects. And that was a job in and of itself, was to find someone who sort of jived with you. So I like the platform. Talk to me a little bit about how you service those smaller companies by sort of providing access to these services.
Yeah, so I think one of the coolest things about Penji is, like, let's just say you're Nike, right? Nike is paying us the exact same amount of money as Bob and Joe's like coffee shop. I don't know, whatever. So essentially what happens is you go onto our website, you sign up for our service, you pay us upfront somewhere around $500 a month, or $500 upfront, and then it's billed monthly. And then after that, you get this back end where you inevitably, it's like an ordering system, a ticketing system for people that are listening, and not necessarily watching, but it's a ticketing system where you can submit your project. You tell us exactly what you want. You give us the examples. You provide as much detail as possible, and you can just keep submitting. And then we work on one project at a time. So once that one project is done, we move on to the next, and then so on and so forth. We do it as many times as we humanly possibly can throughout the course of the month. And then it just recurs. So if you're like a person that's really big on social media, or if you're just like a big content individual, I think Penji is the perfect fit. Or if you don't want to necessarily hire somebody in-house, that's always the biggest thing too, because in-house people, especially during a pandemic, can be somewhere around $40,000 to $60,000 a year, and we're $500 a month. So you can kind of see here that there's a huge wage gap from us versus them. And there are times where a freelance is like a way to go, or an employee is the way to go. But for those people that don't necessarily want to make that jump or that investment, that's where a service like Penji comes in.
So during the pandemic, I want to ask you sort of about two ways it's affected the business. And I think I would classify them as sort of internally and externally. So I want to ask you about how The pandemic's affected your business generally in terms of actually running a business and growth, but also internally how you've dealt with it with your own team. So I'd love to start with externally. I mean, how has the pandemic affected Penji? Has it been a good thing or a bad thing for business?
You're saying externally, so customer facing.
Yeah, in terms of growth and what you thought your projections might have been for this year and how that's sort of been affected.
Yeah, I would say that we were like sky high, like literally like this in when it comes to like before the pandemic, right? So things were rocking, things were rolling. And then the pandemic hit and everybody just it didn't go like this, right? It wasn't like a straight down. It definitely was like a little bit of a curve, but a lot of people panicked, right? We're a subscription based service, so you can go through your reports, your financial reports, and just say like, what don't I need? And since nobody's buying anything, people aren't going to need graphic design, right? So we were pretty quick when it comes to them like canceling our service.
Mm-hmm.
However, we were still gaining customers because as people were canceling, other people had to fire their in-house team and find a cheaper alternative. So in a way, we are recession proof. We are pandemic proof because of how affordable we are. So externally, it definitely altered the projections, but I can say proudly that we've still grown 10, 20% each month. And we've been able to hire even more people than before. And we've never had to fire a single person because of financial impact. So that's been a huge, huge thing for us. And it's something that we're really proud of because as a bootstrapped cash flow positive company, we've never received an ounce of funding and we have over 125 employees. So with that in mind, it's insane to think about those numbers and be able to continue that trajectory because you have a lot of people that we have to look after now. It's not just me anymore. It's not just us and our co-founders. There's a lot of people inside of Penji that also can be affected by the pandemic as well.
I think something that you said really spoke to me, and I think there's also another group of people out there who they weren't producing a lot of content before the pandemic because they were relying on other things to drive business to their company, such as going to in-person events or meeting people in person, going out to lunch, going to happy hours. And now when everyone's sort of at home, I think a lot of people are having to turn to these strategies of producing content and putting things out there to the world so that they can still stay relevant and top of mind for other people.
Yeah, that's 100% the way to go. And it's really awesome that I said this off air, but I'll say it publicly as well. I mean, things like this is awesome. I love this type of stuff because it's somebody hustling that's trying to make a name for themselves, trying to meet new people, trying to just put themselves out there in very vulnerable and awkward situations. So like 100% mad respect to you. But I think during the pandemic, I think what really happened is it shined a light on all of the poor processes and planning that a lot of businesses had. And it poked holes inside of sales funnels and processes like big time, because if you're reliant what you mentioned is sitting down for coffee, first off, who cares about what happens? Like everybody says like business happens during coffee meetings. No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. And the person that you're having coffee with 99% of the time isn't even a customer. So with that said, I think I hope that the pandemic allowed people to rethink what their sales funnel looks like and make a better aspect. From our perspective, we've always been content driven, and it's been the cornerstone to our growth. If you look at our SEO reports, if you look at our domain authority, if you look at all the things that we rank for, we send a ton of traffic directly to our website. And we're really good at it. So when you start to Google keywords related to graphic design, or when you start to Google keywords about like business planning and all this other fun stuff, we are very high in the ranks of Google and get that respect from Google, and in turn we get respect by people clicking on it, and then they ended up going to our ecosystem of our sales funnel. So they go to Instagram, they go to Facebook, they go to LinkedIn, they go to Google, they see literally Penji's name over and over and over again, and it just builds that repetition in their brain that, oh, what the hell is Penji? If I just read it from an article standpoint, what the hell is Penji? The same with you, who the hell is Dan? Like, I see this guy every what would I say, Friday, I don't know when you post this, but every whatever day, he's always making these damn videos. Like, I need to give this guy a shot. So the same rules apply.
Well, that's the hope. So I appreciate you doing my pitch for me. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
When the pandemic struck for you on the internal side and you had to sort of make this pivot and leave the office, and how did you handle that internally as a co-founder and as a leader of the business?
It was great. It was the best day ever. First off, we don't have that, like, we have around 10 to 12 people here in the United States, right? So we don't have that many people to look after. Right. We're also cash flow positive, and we've been so since day one. And so we know how to cut cost. Like, we're really good with money, and we're really good at managing it. So with that in mind, leaving the office was just like, sure, whatever. Like, it didn't matter. We work in a very interesting aspect where people are specialized in what they do, and they don't need an individual to look over them other than just like verifying. So for example, sales, right? Like, I'm very into my role in particular is like, how can I get Penji's name out there to a massive audience, right? I am measured by the amount of sales that come in from, people like yourself who have an audience, which we'll get into at the end of that. And then at the end, and there's other people in the company that are very specific on SEO. So did we increase our traffic from this month to last month? Another person's very specialized in advertising. How many sales do we get from advertising versus this month versus last month? Are we going forward? Are we going backward? How can we change that? So our systems, our processes, our thought processes, our changes, literally were not affected at all. It didn't matter to us at all. And although me as an individual, I love going to an office and love vibing off of people and their energy. I've loved it. So we're good in that regard.
Well, I think it speaks to you as a business owner that you already had systems in place where people had sort of these objective measures they could be measured on. And that makes it easier to transition out of the office because everyone sort of knows what their role is and what their metrics are that are important to them. I'm not so sure every company is as set up to do that so smoothly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think if I can give you an honest answer, I think the holes in the sales process and sales funnel have definitely been found. You see it now. Mm-hmm. And in the ego of individuals in which they have to not like physically touch, right? Not like physically touch, but like maybe emotionally, like, I need to sit down with this person for an hour and a half and have a meeting, like that's not needed, but your ego's telling you that because you feel like you have to like watch over this person that you've hired them to do the job. So, yeah, a lot of inefficiencies are definitely coming forth. So, and I like that because then you can fix it.
Well, so what do you think you'll do going forward? I mean, this is kind of the way that I wrap up all these interviews is by asking people, what do you think happens over the next 6 to 12 to 18 months? I mean, there's been a lot written about companies going remote. Some will come back, some won't. I'm sure the truth will lie somewhere in between. What do you think the future looks like for Penji in terms of having a physical location? You already have a distributed workforce. What do you think the future looks like for the office?
We're not going to have an office at all. I think if anything, we might have like meetings. Like, we do have meetings, like in-person meetings, but it's like once every 3 months. And we are literally all within like a 10-mile radius of each other. So like, whatever. We did pizza, we did seafood, we did, team stuff. But I don't know, man. Like, I would say 12, 16, 18 months, like 24 months. I definitely don't think we're going to have an office. I definitely think we're going to keep the same structure. Here's the thing, right? So I think successful businesses, as I'm like rounding my answer, um, I think successful businesses don't understand. No, non-successful businesses don't understand that you have to do the same thing every single effing day until your brain and your eyes bleed. And then that's where progress happens. And so we're really good at doing the same thing over and over again and not coming up with new ideas. And so it might be insane, like a hamster wheel that you're going through, but like somehow it's oddly satisfying because you're holding yourself to an accountability standpoint in order to grow. So I don't think anything is going to change. Like how we're doing things now. I think we're going to be doing the same things in a year from now. I think we're going to be doing the same thing 5 years from now. It might look a little bit different and it might have more people associated, but in terms of the processes, like we know where people are coming. We know how long they're going to stay. We know what to say in order to sell them. That in itself, I think, is very powerful. I think we're a little bit different than most companies because of where we actually are in the world, in our lineage. But I think for us in particular, it's all positives.
That's great to hear. Johnathan, thank you so much for joining me on the Tenant Side today. I really appreciate it. If you're out there and you're looking for on-demand design services, you should be certainly looking at Penji. Check it out, Penji. Johnathan, again, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, and I want to say one more thing. If
Yeah.
you use the coupon code Ritterman15, you'll get 15% off your first month of service. So use that code, and there's 15% off right there.
I love it. Thank you so much. You heard
Thanks,
that
man.
here, Ritterman 15.
Yeah, use it.